Hi, I'm Tate with FixMyOwnAC.com, and this lesson is how to change an indoor fan motor and also an indoor blower wheel. Okay, now the first step is, like we always tell you, is you want to cut the power. You want to shut off the breaker to the air handler, you want to shut off the breaker to the air conditioner. If this unit has a disconnect or a breaker inside the unit, also make sure to shut that off. You want to make sure the power is completely off to the unit before you get started. Now, this here is a heat pump air handler. Heat pump air handlers are 240 volt, and we have 3 wires that go to the indoor fan motor. We have a black, purple, and a red. Red is for low speed, and when I trace it back to the circuit board, that wire goes right here and it's unused. So now we don't use the red. So all we really got left is a purple and black. So we have 2 wires. Those are your 240 volt wires. So what we want to do is we want to cut those wires. Now we have a run capacitor, and if you look closely, that's directly wired into the fan motor. You can leave that like it is. We're going to pull out this whole assembly with the run capacitor in place. If your run capacitor is mounted here or on the bottom, on the top, somewhere on the case, you're going to have to take the 2 wires off of there. So go ahead and just unplug your run capacitor. You got 2 wires, just unplug those. Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to wire up the new fan motor in a minute. Now, most blower assemblies have a track. The blower assembly slides into a track. This one has, like most of them, it has 2 screws that keep that motor from sliding on that track. Once we take those 2 screws off, this whole motor assembly pulls out. Now, set this down here. On the bottom, let's see if we can get a close-up of this. This one's kind of rusty. We have a shaft, we have a hub, we have a set screw. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the set screw off, we're going to sand the shaft with some plumber's sandpaper. We're going to sand that really good. We're going to take this set screw completely out. We're going to drop a little bit of oil inside the hole where the screw was. What we always use is Zoom spout oil. This little tube goes down inside the oiler, and the little cap comes off the top. You can squirt a little bit down the shaft. And then here's the sandpaper. You can get this over at Home Depot or Ace Hardware, Lowe's, and it's real coarse grit. And you just tear a piece of that off, and you can use it to you want to shine up that shaft as much as you can. It helps get that off. Okay, what we've done is we've taken the set screw off, we sanded the shaft, we got a little bit of oil on there. What I do is I take a crescent wrench. I'm going to show you this real quick because this will save you hours of headache. You take your crescent wrench and you put that on the shaft. Your shaft has a flat side, so you tighten down your crescent wrench onto that shaft, and you can turn the shaft, hold the wheel with this hand, and you can turn that shaft. Now we had a pretty hard time getting that loose, but we got it loose. So after you get that nice and loose, you got some oil on there, take that, turn it over like this. You take these screws off the bracket. Of course they're 3/8. Here we go. We're going to take those screws out of the bracket. This will get the motor loose from the blower housing. The blower wheel is the part that we loosened up off the shaft of the motor. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you real quick how to change that blower wheel, because if your fan motor is good and you're just changing your the blower wheel, then I'll just show you real quick how to change that. It's pretty simple. We're almost done here. We'll get this bracket screws, set them off to the side. Now what I normally do is I take the whole assembly and turn it upside down like this, and excuse me, and we got everything loose on this side, and we can just pull that right out of there. Pull that out. Let's move that motor off to the side. I'll show you real quick how to pull that out. Bear with me a second. This is only something very important. If you're just changing the blower wheel, take a look at this. Your blower wheel will not fit out of there, so you have to remove this little cover. It's got screws here, here, and a couple screws here. Sometimes they only have 2 screws on the sides. You could pry that up and take that blower wheel right out of there. So to change this motor, what we got is we got the fan motor and the bracket. Now the new motor comes without a bracket, so this is very simple. We take this bolt off here, and we take these three wings of the bracket off, and we mount those onto the new motor. Okay, now after I took the fan bracket off, the bracket was covering the data plate. The data plate is going to tell you horsepower, RPM, and voltage. It's very critical if you're taking out a 3/4 horsepower, that you put in a 3/4 horsepower. If you're taking out a 208, 230, that's which one you put in. And also our RPM. Now our RPM on this one says 1080. We can go down to 1075. 1075 is more common, so that's the one that we sell on our website. The more common it is, the easier it is to exchange. So this motor here is a 3/4 horse, 230 volt, and it's a 1075 RPM. The rotation is not critical because the motors that we sell are interchangeable, clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay, now we're going to take the motor, slide it down in there, line up our bracket holes. Screw put our bolts back in. Okay, now I've reset our set screw onto the flat of the shaft. It's very important that you put that set screw on the flat of the shaft. Also, I've gone halfway between the bottom and the top to make sure that the blower wheel is centered in between the blower housing. That way it doesn't scrape on the housing. Okay, now your new fan motor is going to come with a new run capacitor. If it calls for a 7.5 or a 10 or a 12.5, that capacitor will come with your new fan motor that you buy from fixmyownAC.com. Now if you buy a fan motor at another website, that's fine, but you have to make sure that you get the proper run capacitor for that fan motor. And then this new fan motor is going to have 2 brown wires. Those brown wires plug right into the run capacitor, just like this. Okay, we've got those plugged in. Now the only 2 wires we have left over is your line voltage, your line 1 and line 2. Very simple. We're going to slide this in there. Okay, now we've got our two line voltage wires left to wire up. We've got our control panel on this side. We got the blower here. We're going to put these wires through the hole that goes from this side to this side. Now we've got these 2 wires, and we're going to take. There's only 2 wires. There's no way to mess that up. Just line 1, line 2. We're going to put those together with some orange wire nuts. There's line 1. Here's line 2. Okay, I'm going to show you another thing that you need to learn and understand. It's going to be very important here. Okay, now our motor is wired up. Everything's ready to go. If you look inside here, you've got this purple and yellow wire with the terminals on there. That is for rotation. If your rotation is going backwards and you need to change that rotation, it's very simple. You just unplug these 2 purples and you connect a purple with yellow and a yellow with purple. It might be black and white, it might be green and yellow, and you just unplug those, interchange them, and your rotation will go backwards. Once you unplug those, you understand what I'm talking about. It's very, they call it idiot proof. It's very hard to get that messed up. Now you've got all these loose wires in here. Now one of the things that we've learned through the years is those wires could get drawn into the fan the fan blower wheel. So what we do is we take all those wires and we put them all together, and you want to wrap a zip tie around there, or you want to put a wrap of black tape around those wires to keep them from getting drawn into the blower wheel itself. Okay, everything's secured, our blower is secured, our blower wheel is secured, the housing's secured to the machine, everything's ready to go. Now the next step is to put the panel back on. Before you put the panel back on, go reset your breaker, turn your air conditioner to blower, your thermostat to blower from auto to on, and when you do that, then your indoor fan will be calling for that fan motor to come on. Then when you turn the breakers on and you reinstate your breaker or your disconnect up here where the air handler is, then you can check your indoor fan to make sure it's going to proper rotation. And the way you know the proper rotation is if you look at the blower wheel itself, it'll have, like, the fan blades will be cupping the air and pulling the air. If it's going this way, then you know it's going backwards. And like I said, it's very simple. Change the rotation and you're good to go. One thing I want to say is, if you've changed your indoor fan, congratulations. It's probably, I've been doing this for a little over 20 years, it's probably the hardest component in an air conditioner to change. So you want to pat yourself on the back, and again, I want to thank you for watching my video. I'm Tate with FixMyOwnAC.com, and today's lesson was how to change an indoor fan motor.